I'm 24 and a couple of weeks ago, I submitted my final assignment for my second master's degree program, which I completed while juggling a full-time job and growing this YouTube channel. Doing all this required impeccable time management skills, but believe it or not, this wasn't a skill that I was always great at. In fact, it was just 5 years ago that I almost lost a $76,000 scholarship to my dream school because I was doing such a terrible job at managing my time. In undergrad, in addition to my classes, I was also on the track team, which meant I was at practice for like 4 hours of the day. And I also had a part-time job at my school's rec center. And if I'm being honest, in the first half of my undergrad experience, I cared way more about track and kikiing with my friends and even sometimes making a couple bucks at my part-time job more than I cared about my classes. And for a while, this worked because I had always been pretty good at finessing school. In high school, I did this really intense program called IB. Basically, you're taking like 8 college level classes as like a high school junior and senior. So by the time I got to college, just taking 4 classes a day felt like a piece of cake. And because none of the concepts were particularly challenging for me to grasp, I was able to get away with skipping steps and doing everything last minute. But if there's one thing that college will do, it's humble you. And a year and a half in, I finally met my match, Phonetics and Phonology 101. I didn't vibe with the professor, the concepts didn't really make sense to me, and it was springtime in Boston. I didn't want to be bothered, and I wanted to soak up the sun as much as I could and just have a good time, you know? So even though I was so lost in the class, I just kept deciding to put it off. I just said I would figure it out later, and then later became finals week, and I remember trying to cram like a whole semester full of information into 3 days, and obviously I failed the final, and I ultimately got a D in the class. For another student, this might not have been a big deal, but I was a scholarship kid, which meant that in order to keep my $76,000 scholarship, which was the only way I could attend that expensive ass school, I had to maintain a certain GPA. Now, yes, I was doing okay in my classes before, but the last minute stuff was not a formula to get a 4.0. So that D in the class significantly dropped my already imperfect GPA. And now I was on the cusp of losing my scholarship. I actually remember the day that grades dropped and I realized that I might lose my scholarship. I went to the bathroom during my shift at the rec center and called my mom hysterical. Obviously, she was so supportive because she's amazing, but we were like literally making plans about me like applying to community college that summer. I just know my life could have looked a lot different based on that cutoff, but luckily I just made the cutoff, and after that I promised my mom and myself that I would never be in a position like that again, and I was gonna figure out how to find a balance between all the stuff I was doing at school to make sure that I kept up with my classes. I became adamant on finding a time management system that would help me balance my classes, work, track, and my social life. And after implementing a few simple principles, I didn't become a perfect student or anything, but I did much better in my classes. I felt more on top of things, and I even ended up taking advanced classes and earning my bachelor's and master's in that 4 years. And today, I still use these same principles as I try to manage my time and find balance between school, work, and this YouTube channel. First, preparation is key. Even if you don't get started on something, you have to know what's ahead of you. I found so much value in just laying out every step that I need to take in order to complete something. One of the big reasons that I failed that class is because I wasn't prepared. I didn't look ahead to see what assignments were coming up, so I didn't know how long they would take and therefore didn't give myself enough time to complete them. So when I came back to school the next semester, I looked at each syllabus and wrote out every single due date and put it on my calendar. Once a month, I would look more closely at all of these due dates to understand how much time I needed to allot to getting everything done. If there was a due date for a reading, I would look and see, well, is the reading 10 pages or is it 50 pages? Because if it's 50, I need to start earlier. I would look at the requirements and rubrics for big assignments, and this helped me be more realistic with timing. And I still do the same thing today for work and YouTube. So something that I need to prepare for now is the reset video that I plan to film to go out on New Year's Eve. And I really need to just sit down and think through like what I actually want to include in the video, because there will be dependencies to stuff. I definitely want to do like a reflection. I also want to add in some home or apartment decor updates. And then I also want to vlog my vision board party with my friends, let me do some quick just jotting down notes so I can think of everything I need to do in order to be able to show those things in that video. So upon reflecting on what I want to include in this reset video, some of the things like I need to order on Amazon right now, basically, because they need to get here in time for me to be able to film the video. Yeah, I'm really glad that I did this. It just puts a pep in my step to actually like make a schedule and then try to like get started, because then I'm like, oh, this is a lot of stuff to do. Next, my number one rule in life is to write everything down. When I was little, my Nana had notebooks full of random notes, and I'd be like, bro, why does she have all this information written down? But it's because our brains cannot remember things like that. And so it's just better if we write things down. And when it comes to time management on a day-to-day, the truth is memory is unreliable, and maybe mine more so than others. But I have to write everything down for two reasons. First, if I don't write it down, I'll forget it. In school, with juggling my coursework, sports, and my job, different to-do items and obligations were bound to slip my mind. Writing it down, whether it was on my phone or in a notebook, was the only way to make sure I could keep track of things. And second, I was very aware of how forgetful I was. So I had a bad habit of anytime I thought of something I needed to do, I would stop what I was doing and go do the thing I just thought of, which was really bad for concentration and getting anything done. So instead, when anything comes to mind, if I can help it, I try to just write it down so I don't have to worry about forgetting it, and I can stay focused on the current task at hand. I keep a to-do list up, and I didn't have this in undergrad, but now I use Notion. And for me, I just like it because it's really simple to use. I also plan out my days with it, and I can access it on my laptop or my phone, so I always have it. The next essential part of my time management system is making a daily schedule. Every night, I like to go back into my Notion planner and time block for the next day. So this is the schedule that I'm making for myself for tomorrow. So let's see how much of this to-do list I get done tomorrow. Okay, you guys know that joke about like going to Target without a list and just seeing what the store tells you should buy? Well, when you have a lot of things to manage, you cannot have that same mindset when it comes to your time. For me, it's way too chaotic to just wake up and see what the vibes are for the day, which is what I was doing for the first half of college. Going with the flow is not an effective strategy for maximizing your time. If you want to make the most out of your time, you need to make a daily schedule, even if you don't follow the schedule. It's pretty rare that I follow a daily schedule that I make to the T, because I don't know what's going to happen that day. I don't know what's going to come up that I need to handle, or how my priorities might change that day. But even though I never follow my schedules to a T, I always get way more done on days where I have a daily schedule set versus days when I don't. Because the act of creating a schedule forces you to prioritize and think about the things you want to commit to. So it's in the back of your mind all day. And whenever you have to make a decision or an adjustment in your day, it's easier to know what to swap out or push to the next day or completely delete off of your to-do list. And lastly, what helps me is making sure I get the rebound. I am a busybody. I always have a lot on my plate. I give myself a lot of responsibilities to manage, and I always overload my to-do list, even on off days, which means I'm going to slip up. It's inevitable that I will forget to do something, misjudge how long a task will take, or fall behind on any given project. What has helped me is accepting this and finding ways to get good at getting back on track quickly after I slip up. What's worked for me is thinking of things in terms of like an MVP, or minimally viable product, which basically means like, okay, I intended to do this, but given the circumstances, what would be good enough? So I wanted to get 10 shots for this video, but I can't get 10 shots. Can I make do with 5 shots? Or I didn't think this reading would take as long as it did, and now I don't have enough time to thoroughly go through the whole thing. But can I skim the top of each paragraph to get the gist of the article? And when that's not enough, there's always tomorrow. At the end of the day, when I look at my to-do list, 80% of the time, there's stuff on there that I just didn't get to, which is the whole point of going through my planning exercise every night, because based on the things I didn't get to today, I'll reprioritize tomorrow, make sure I get to those things first, and we just keep moving forward. So these are just some pretty simple and easy practices that you can implement into your life, and they've been enough to increase my productivity, get me through 3 degree programs, and balance everything that I have going on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sure by now you can tell that I'm kind of a procrastinator. If you're one too, and you want to know how I've been able to turn procrastination into a productivity hack, then check this video out here. And lastly, even with great time management, working a lot inevitably leads to burnout if you're not making time for self-care. So in next week's video, I'm gonna share the weekly reset routine that literally makes or breaks my week. I hope to see you then. Bye.